feeling Zhu and Jun now that she's got the win behind her. I think she might be feeling ambitious today. Jan Nepomniachtchi, another one who will be aiming to bounce back after falling yesterday to that fantastic game by Bukesh.
That was a sick tactic, if I'm being honest. Make any moves. I'm just going to point out some things here. There's a bishop on g2, staring the length of the diagonal, pinning a knight on c6. But then there's this weird knight on the rim, looking a bit dim. It's not threatening anything. Black has defended all these pawns on the queen side. It kind of looks like Black has stabilized with all the pieces of natural squares, and White has one knight on the rim here, a second knight on the rim here. Spent a bunch of time to push this pawn all the way to h6. The bishop on c1 undeveloped. David, can you explain to us why Black isn't just better, having played all seemingly natural moves?
Yeah, I can't explain it, Robert. I'm too classically trained here. I grew up looking at all these games where it's about controlling the center, kind of build pressure there. Eventually you exchange some things off and you look long-term in terms of pawn structure. But, I mean, Black has played classically, as you mentioned. Praggnanandhaa, he's done nothing wrong. White, meanwhile, has broken all the rules. Look at these knight jumps. He's moved this knight now 3 times. He's moved the other knight twice. Forgotten to develop castle the White King. Forgotten to develop White's dark square bishop, which looks like it's going to be stuck for an age. And there's a White H pawn down the board. It's just modern chess. AlphaZero's influence with the pawn on h6. And Nepomniachtchi, he needs to act energetically just to back this up. He hasn't done anything too drastic either with White. He's got a bunch of time on the clock, so clearly opening kind of computer preparation. But yeah, it feels like unless he is able to maintain that momentum, energy, initiative, then yeah, we could see Black punish White for his temerity here. Bishop takes g4 though. Wow. Yeah. We need to jump in.
we do. I'm almost wondering if I should even go back in time to see how we got here. I'll just quickly go through the moves. We won't maybe comment too much on the gameplay. It's an unorthodox line, not something you see at this high level very often, but I like the style from both of these players. For Pragg, he was asked the big question, how are you going to combat some of these crazy variations? And it started from one of the quietest possible setups with knight f3 and bishop on g2, but here we will start to see things get crazy. After exchange in the center, knight c3, knight back, avoiding the trade, a3, a waiting move, and here, David, I think this is a good lesson for people. When somebody pushes a pawn to fianchetto to a bishop, you should always think about throwing your rook pawn up the board to challenge the setup.
Yeah, especially if you're uncastled yourself. White's king here is safe enough behind this kind of pawn shelter in the center. White's rook on h1 is perfectly poised, and yeah, it's always on the radar. Sometimes it's less good than other occasions, but here Nepomniachtchi clearly thinks he can get away with it. He's trying to throw a spanner in the works for his opponent's development plan. He's making it less appealing for the Black King to castle kingside, as we shortly see. And yeah, this pawn continues its adventure down the board very shortly.
Knight came to a4, just a poke at the c5 pawn, and then when the pawn went to b6, really playing for a win. That would be something. I guess it's not easy for White to find a move. Perhaps it's best to just bail out if you see that possibility, but I don't actually see how you do that with the rook about to slam down on c2. You can't challenge for the open files. This move rook to d1, that is a possibility because the black rook can't successfully move out of the way without dropping the bishop. But if we get this situation here where more pieces are traded, White is frozen. The rook can't move, f2 is loose. The knight can't move. b5 is actually a huge threat to trap that knight on a4. So we could see a position like this where it's White who is the one who's actually in trouble.
Yeah, White needs to urgently backpedal here and try and find a way to bail out with the draw because it has been turning and not in Nepomniachtchi's favor. So yeah, just fantastic kind of resourcefulness from Pragg, and yes, it should still be a draw, for example. I mean, even in that final position, but yeah, I mean, for example, the rooks might disappear even if White's knight doesn't survive. Then the absence of rooks, opposite color bishops, should guarantee a draw if it's just pawns on the king side. But yeah, this one, it's been a fascinating game from start to finish. Ultimately, looks like we are guiding, both players guiding this one towards safety.
And if the game is a draw, that means that Jan Nepomniachtchi is sort of righted the ship after yesterday's debacle, an oversight, but a real beautiful tactic uncorked from Gukesh. And for Praggnanandhaa, he is continuing to have a pretty good tournament. He beat the world champion Ding Liren, second year in a row. He beat Ding, so Pragg is in good form, and with the black pieces to hold Jan Nepomniachtchi, not a small feat.
Yeah, just fantastic signs for Pragg heading into the candidates as well in a few months' time. We mentioned that earlier. Undefeated in this really difficult tournament so far, and looking like that will stay the case. Should we go to the other games, which are still in the build-up to that move 40 right now? Especially the battle between Van Forest and Gukesh, I was curious about. And we need to check in at some point with our leader, Anish Giri, who has lost some of, as expected, between Jan Nepomniachtchi and Praggnanandhaa.
And you see the players talking, probably just analyzing a few of the variations, but a draw was a fair result as White's knight was stuck. It was an extra piece for a couple pawns, but no progress could be made. So Praggnanandhaa gets the result that he wanted. For Jan, he's probably a little bit disappointed, but he's still laughing, so he's in good spirits.
Yeah, ultimately a very well-played game by both, but the battles we're left with, the game between Giri and Magzulu